Ṣẹ̀kẹ̀rẹ̀ lọ bá jó, ṣẹ̀kẹ̀rẹ̀ lọ bá jó, olúwa mi ò dìde ojú
The Ashen Forge. The Ashen Forge.
Hello and welcome to the Ashen Forge. I am Phantom X, joined as always by Diggs and the legendary Nootoxin. How are you two doing?
All right.
Wonderful. We had a week. Yeah, we had a week off. I was out of town, actually up in Indiana. But in the meantime, we had a stream on
3-day vacation. You folks are probably off too, doing something cool.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's one of the beauties of my job changing a little bit is that I get holidays off. So, well, kind of. Anyways,
wow.
Yeah, but that's a whole other topic. But in the meantime, we had a live stream, a show, a raid of sorts of the Cyclops. So that's kind of primarily going to be our focus today, sort of what everyone thought, some of the feedback from the forums, some of the questions they answered afterwards. It's really our first look at a big group, unless there's anything you all would like to bring up beforehand. We kind of do a little introduction, what have you been doing sort of thing, but
we could do that at the end since you already segued into the raid. Let's keep going with the raid stuff.
Well, what'd you think?
It looks like a good introductory sort of like a clusterfuck raid, like a sort of raid where so long as you're on top of doing the things you're supposed to do, you're probably gonna survive and you're probably gonna succeed. The enemies, he does that charge thing, try to stay out of the way of it. When he's done with the charge, obviously you want to, reposition correctly. But I feel like it's not a high pressure sort of thing. Like, yeah, he's gonna kill you. He's gonna kill everyone if you take him easy and you don't bring your A game. But I don't think it's one that people are gonna need to wear special gear and make a special build and do a training montage and stuff of, getting prepared before they can finally take on the big bad guy. I think you get, some group of 21 to 39s together and, it's like, hey, we spotted this thing. Anyone want to gather up and help kill it? Okay, cool. And you got a few people in the area, gather up, you go do the thing, and maybe you fail the first time. Whoops. All probably going to end up at the same spawn point. Follow the trail of trees falling over and the sound of it, and try it again.
What makes you think it's going to be that easy?
Just looking at kind of the mechanics of it overall. I mean, sure, there's likely going to be some element of a DPS and a healing check to it, sure. But I don't think it's the sort of thing. It's not the usual odd groups got left, even groups got right, dots more dots sort of thing. It seems very a lot more straightforward, and because the guy keeps charging around, you can have more of a loose skirmishy sort of formation instead of all being in these very tightly regimented little wings here and there that constantly rotate like a marching band.
I mean, I thought it looked fine. The world looks nice. The viewpoint looked good. His eye kind of drove me nuts, but that's more of an art issue than the combat itself. I didn't see any sort of problems at this stage with it. It is sort of, I don't even know that I would use simplified. I mean, there was a forum post, which we can talk about later as we move further along, but it was sort of comparing this to some Lineage 2 bosses, which were very different. Like the video that was shown was like a static, not go anywhere kind of boss. And this guy was moving around. There was unavoidable AE damage. There was, looked like targeting and rushing. You had to kill, he would self-heal, which you had to interrupt. You had to kill his tree, so he couldn't heal. You had to kill the mushrooms, so he couldn't heal. And actually, you could use the mushrooms to heal yourself if you needed to. A fairly complex open world boss for, what was it, level 30-ish range, not max level. And so, I don't know. I get curious as to like, okay, what kind of complexity is needed? Like what would actually satisfy everyone's interest here? Because a lot of the feedback was that it wasn't that cool, basically. It was kind of blah. Of course, the one big thing we're missing is the PvP. Like what, if you're trying to take that down and you have another group behind you trying to pick off your healers, like, how does that change things?
I do like the two-phase sort of thing where you can either engage with the branch and he's using the nature stuff and able to heal, or if you think you're so bad, just break that and he's not going to be healing in rage mode because he doesn't have heals anymore. He's going to be raging on your faces. So if you can handle that, then, that might work out for you. I like that that's a sort of option for how you can fight him potentially.
Yes. So I think, though, that this seemed to be not indicative of the difficulty levels, because I think this was just to kind of show the interaction of the and I think it's exactly what Phantom might have been addressing, to show that the boss is not going to be static, that it's going to be moving around. They wanted to show how it's going to interact with its environment. And I think people are expecting, I think they said this is just like kind of simple. This is a simple boss, is I think the phrasing that they used. So I think we can expect to see the mechanics be more difficult. And I think some of the people in the forums are hoping that, we'll get more bosses that will be indicative of only 10% of the server population will be able to clear it. But we'll have to see. I think, as per usual, this is like an early, we're in Alpha 1, in between Alpha 1 and Alpha 2. So we shouldn't be expecting necessarily super awesome advanced AI and mechanics for the. I don't even know if they want to show that stuff yet anyway. But
yeah. The thing with Tumok, the Cyclops, is he was exiled from Sojuma, which I don't know if that's somewhere in the grasslands or if that's some Cyclops island somewhere else. Like,
yeah, I thought that was the island in the north.
Maybe it is.
I'm trying to remember the map, but that's what comes to mind.
Apparently that's where the Cyclopses live, and they kicked him out for trying to make deals with the Ancients. So my guess is the reason why he keeps coming back is because the Ancients gave him the power to keep returning to life, but in exchange, he carries normal humanoid-sized loot that humanoids can use. And the humanoids are compelled to fight and kill him when he just wants to hang out and roam the lands or whatever and do his thing. That's not exactly saying what they've said, but that's kind of my interpretation coming from the stuff that they have kind of said, which is that he was exiled from Sojima for doing the doing the thing and trying to get others to follow him to do bad stuff with the ancients. So I'm guessing that's why he's going to keep respawning, and that's just the reason I made up for why he has weapons and armor that we can use that he drops. There's really no other rhyme or reason for something like that. The size of him, though, is something that I thought was just absolutely weird. He seems small. He's a third of the size I expected. And the reason why I say that is because for something to be walking around, intentionally targeting trees and felling them, just walking straight through them and having them fall straight over, you would have to be so much bigger. Like, I think of the biggest, toughest, not bodybuilders, but strength trainers, the Olympic lifters that are like, I can, lift 800 pounds in every different format with any different sort of, load. No big deal. That's what I do. Or the ones that use steroids and don't do it professionally that, could probably push way beyond that and maybe their heart doesn't explode. Those people don't walk through saplings. They don't walk straight forward and saplings just like break off and explode off of them or whatever. That does not happen. You put a wooden post in the ground and they walk forward, that post isn't just going to go when they walk, right up to it and touch it. That's the part where I expected them 3 times the size. If they're felling trees just like that, I expect the dude to be so big that the trees are just coming up to here, and it's like, just a little bush to me. No, it's only like. What was that?
Phantom, what am I going to say?
Magic.
Oh, that's magic.
Yep.
You're assuming that they're using Earth physics, and that's a not great assumption in a world of high magic fantasy.
But the trees felled will affect the ecology in the area. So will enemies, or not enemies, animals predating on other animals that will also affect ecology. So if you don't want all of your trees in the area to start getting knocked down and make the land management a big problem, then you're going to need to round up a posse and take down the Cyclops. I don't know how far it ranges, if it stays in a region, if it's just like roll a d8 and go approximately that direction for like the next mile or so.
We watched him move.
How much of a threat can one Cyclops be? Is it a bunch of Cyclopes or just the one? Sujima, by the way, I'm kind of embarrassed that I even remembered where it is without looking at the map, but I checked the map and yeah, it's in the northwest. It's an island in the northwest.
Yeah.
Right at the top of the map.
So yeah, that's where the Cyclops folk live. I don't know if we'll get a chance to meet them and be friends with them. Are we
going to care if they're knocking down trees there?
I don't know if they're knocking down trees there because I don't think they're like driven mad with corruption for being given infinite life and human-sized weapons by the ancients.
If it's just one, we might not care super much, but I mean, we'll want to stop them, but I don't think it's going to be as much as a whole gang of them.
It's just going to be the one, but he's going to keep respawning. It sounded like from the description of things that this is one of those repeatable encounters, that it isn't, oh, great, you've slain Tumok, the corrupted. Great job. He is now felled and gone from this world. I would imagine to like formally and completely purge him, there would be a larger quest chain, which now that I think about it, would probably originate in Sojuma. They'd be like, wait, he's still alive doing what? Oh, hell no. Here, let's give you some, like, Cyclops magic to finish him off or something. I don't know. Mm-hmm. We'll see. That's me just being hopeful.
It's an interesting question how far he roamed. I guess we got to see him walk some, but we don't really know how far of a roaming that would be. I know that, one of the things I loved, I always correlate a lot of things to EverQuest. Obviously, it's the first game I played, first MMO, first love of the genre. They had some zones there where you would see these sort of world bosses traveling long distances all across the zone. So you did not know where they always were. You knew a general path, but given any certain time of the day or whatever, you didn't know exactly where they were, which made it hard to fight them. Also made it challenging as a solo or even small group, out in the wild killing things. You'd have to be very mindful if some of these world bosses were strolling up on you or not. I imagine that would be the case here as well. What'd you think about the trees falling down? I thought that was a fun touch.
I thought it's a silly sort of thing and an interesting sort of mechanic, but again, I expected them to be 3 times the size to be just knocking trees down like that.
Yeah, Superman.
It's not like
he doesn't even use magic.
I could see, like, if dude was stopping and full on, like, baseball bat swinging that thing with his tree club. Sure, that's one thing, but not like, oh, I'm walking forward. Hey, I just hit it with my nuts and it fell over. Just keep on going like that. No, that there needs to be a little bit more. That's actually, I would really enjoy that if there was an animation that he stops and, like, does like a Muay Thai kick or whatever, and breaks it down low, or does like a spinning back fist and knocks it over that way or something. That would be fun. That'd be interesting. I would like to see that. That would be a lot more intriguing to me than just, har, I'm walking through on my big dumb plow. Just, watch me go through. I ain't into that.
I did not know that we had a Superman hater in our midst.
Who hates Superman?
Clearly, legendary neurotoxin does, because Superman's not that big and he can knock over those trees.
Yeah, super strength.
He and Batman both like beating up the working class and then only putting like a bad guy in jail and not like actually doing the job. Whatever. That's besides the point. They both suck because of the bourgeoisie. Oh, I'm going to give you bourgeois justice. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, yeah, no, I don't like Superman. I like the Red Sun Superman though. That one's a really cool plot line.
Or Injustice.
Yeah, there's some good ones out there. So why I asked, where I'm interested in this, is I think there was a very good question, and I did not see that there was an answer to it from staff, anyways, on the forums about whether you'd be able to fell those. I guess you wouldn't fell the tree; they're already knocked over. But whether you'd be able to harvest from them, if you were coming along, could you actually in turn take those trees and turn them into whatever you needed from a harvesting standpoint? Which raises a lot of questions because, would you, bring someone from your guild while you're killing it? They're harvesting the trees alongside you. Would you be like the little fish that feed off of the sharks that follow them around, and you just follow the raid? And as their raid is fighting, you're just they're harvesting the trees and trying.
I'm saying, as much as Neurotoxin is saying that he hates the idea of the Cyclopes, that's going to be his nomad path. He's going to just follow the trail of the Cyclops and pick up sticks after him.
I mean, it seems useful, right? And actually, that's also a good point to my other conversation, or what I just mentioned about EverQuest and how you had to be very mindful of what was around you. This adds in another layer of visual. Okay, I can see the trees are down. There's probably a Cyclops nearby. I can hear the feet coming. But yeah, I thought that was a very interesting question. Would you be able to actually harvest the trees? And
so my favorite moment in EverQuest was a vanilla EverQuest. I was playing a halfling or whatever, and I was a healer, so I was coming out from town, and I noticed this group of players were meeting right outside the gates, or right inside the gates. So I heal them up, and I say, "Great, good deed of the day." Walk out, going out to harvest some more. I walk out of the gates, and I bump into something, and it's I don't know what it is, but I start panning up, and I see knobby knees, and then a waist, and then shoulders, and then a head, and it's a giant who goes and one shot kills me.
Yep.
But it was awesome because I was this tiny little thing going, "Oops, what is this?" Oops.
They drop a lot of coin. That was the thing for the Giants.
No wonder they were meeting right inside the gates, because they trained it into
Yeah.
the city.
But
Yeah.
the other point that was interesting, and this came up in the questions, but it does relate to the trees, was this idea of the word just left, land management. And that sort of ties into where they've talked about in the past. There would be bosses. There will be reasons that you have to go out and take care of something, whether it's a world boss, whether it's a group of NPCs, that if you do not, there will be consequences. Things will happen that will then affect your node. This appears to... Well, it doesn't appear that the mechanics are actually in the game yet. He was knocking down trees. But Stephen did say that this would then in turn have a land management system, which is also very interesting. I think a pretty neat representation, at least early, of what they're trying to, what they've been saying verbally, actually getting to see some of this within the game. So it makes me curious about how much destruction, if it's the same path, right? Is it going to be limited destruction of the trees? Is there going to be a variable path? Will there sort of be zigzagging, some randomness to it, so that it actually does cause, a big deforestation problem?
Yeah, and is the Cyclops unintentionally knocking down the trees, or is he hunting down trees? So, for instance, if
it looked like he was targeting trees.
But I mean, in terms of what his motivations are, like, is he gonna be searching for places that have trees? And if it's a place that doesn't have a lot of trees, he's not going to hang out there? Or is that just along his way to somewhere else?
I think it's along the way, because I noticed at one point he exits the wooded area into more of a clearing, and if he was looking to destroy trees, he would have turned left or right and continued in the wooded area. Mm-hmm. So I think it's along a relative path. He's going to pick every tree along the way, but as soon as he gets past that clearing, he's going to deprioritize targets and trees' targets, and continue moving forward towards whatever his meandering destination may be.
Right, which is a kind of interesting thing in terms of motivations, right? I think of this and have thought of this with EQ Next, but not so much for the PvE side necessarily. But in this case, it's not so much that we don't like the Cyclops, or we have anything else against the Cyclops. Just we have to get rid of them in order to save the trees if we're interested in saving the trees, especially from a druid point of view, perhaps. And that's one of the things that I was looking forward to with EverQuest Next in terms of the PvP. If there are players who are deforesting, and it's going to cause some other problem. In the case of EverQuest Next, it was going to cause these elite boss mobs to spawn that were going to start siphoning the life out of all the villages or cities or whatever in the area. So it's not so much that I have a problem even against the other players. It's that I have to stop them from doing what they're doing for the greater good of the region, because we're all going to have to pull together in order to stop these larger bosses from spawning and doing even more damage. So yeah, if they can get those kind of motivators in there, that we're not necessarily interested in the one thing, but we're interested in the preventing the byproduct of it, that can be a kind of cool design there, I think.
I think there's another aspect of the Cyclops that I'm interested in, and I don't know if we're going to get it or not. Maybe not only in Alpha 2, but maybe never. But I hope we do, and I hope it's built in from the start. When they are meandering, will there be a target, a destination, a place they will finally at some point settle or rest? Maybe when the night comes. Maybe they only travel by night and during the day they settle down somewhere. Is there a place we'll be able to find them in, resting or doing some sort of ritual or eating or anything like that? Or are they literally just meandering, walking like Cain and just, not really having, just cursed to walk the planet and that's it. No sleep, no eat, no stop. Just plow through trees, carry a club, walk around. That is all that life ever is, unless you're interrupted. That's what I'm interested in. What else will the Cyclops do? Is there a place that they'll find that, happens to be their hideout that they go to once every 3 days or something that you can kind of finally follow them to? That's what's interesting to me. What else is going to be, if we want to sustain, okay, we can take a little bit of loss. They're going to do some harm, so we can follow them all the way to their home, potentially do more, potentially get more loot, potentially destroy the thing that keeps them coming back, so we can stop them from coming back again. That's stuff that's interesting to me, and I'd really like to see players being able to see and utilize.
I think we will not see the Cyclops eat because there's no children in this game.
These animals can, club a goat and shove
children
it in
are
his mouth.
animals, but the kind of animals that Cyclops like to eat are children.
Why would there not be child NPCs?
Steven says there's no children.
Really?
Mm-hmm. If I remember correctly.
That's
that way
interesting.
no children are getting harmed or killed.
Yeah, I mean, I can loosely understand.
By creepy players or whatever.
Interesting.
They're not coming through the portal yet. It's not safe.
Well, then what do they do with the Tolnar?
They keep theirs at home.
But I mean, when we see them,
Not allowed above ground.
I'm suddenly confused about this. I mean, I understand the basic premise, but how do you implement that in a way that makes sense? But anyways,
Well, you see, the way the Tolnar hatch is that everybody in the community spits in a giant pot, and then it gets brewed up, and it forms into a giant egg. Like, it is a huge pot. It's like a giant, 6-foot egg. And they hatch out of that, fully formed. Hey! No, I don't. You're right. What are they going to do to reconcile? And then that would also, over the life of the game, 5-10 years down the road, are all the NPCs completely chased in all of the places that never got overrun? Maybe like the starting portal areas, for example. Are you going to say that all of those NPCs have been like, nope, Varys got the greatest birth control, and this ain't a place to raise children, buddy? What? It raises questions.
well, to go back.
Wait a minute. One other question. this game does have like some sort of a family system, like characters having the same last name sort of thing, right?
Siblings. Your siblings can come through the portal as long as they're over 18.
So, what about if you want to have, let's say, any portal race and a Tulnar as family? Is that just cool? Like, is that fine?
Is what fine?
If you've got a Tulnar and a portal race as family, like technically they wouldn't be.
Yeah, you can marry a Tolnar if you
cousins
want.
or whatever.
People from Sanctus can marry a Tolnar.
I suppose.
Well,
Rule it.
To go back to your original,
They can mate with them too. Whether or not they can have viable offspring is another question.
wow,
That's a good point.
Doesn't hurt to try.
doesn't hurt to try.
Magic.
See?
Wow. To go back to your original comment, I actually don't think that will happen. The idea if they'll meander back home or to some gathering spot, only because there was a question that was asked about how do you avoid guilds camping these sorts of bosses, and one of the answers that was given was that they'll have sort of random spawns, not just in time but also in location. So there'll be variability within where they respawn and when. So I imagine if they had one dedicated area they were trying to get to, every third day you could find them at home, then that's just going to be a pretty easy process to having a guild camping them. So I would guess that's not going to happen. But or if they could wander home, but I guess you would want to make sure it's not on a time specific routine.
I could see it being something where they have a special place that they go where if you don't specifically see where they go and follow, you won't see that there's a boulder or like a stone wall that they push out of the way and then slide back that otherwise you would never know is interactable. That would be an interesting mechanic that you have to not bring a giant group and just as like 3 or less sneaky people just kind of watch it go to its little resting spot so you can scout it out, then bring people.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be interesting. I don't think it would need to go back every day, just so long as like maybe once every like IRL week it goes back home for a moment, I think would be plenty.
I'm so confused. I didn't realize there would be no kids. Sorry. No. Anyways,
I'm pretty sure they said that, but it's been probably a couple of years. Things could have changed, especially since
and
we
I also
have.
I don't know
Elite
what the
5.
extent of no kids is. If we're talking like no toddlers, or we're talking like everyone's going to be 15 and older, but like they won't be like school kids. They'll be, young farming age adults in most cultures, like 200 or more years ago, sort of thing.
Yeah, that was my impression. Is could be
Yeah.
teenagers, but not toddlers.
and I guess if
Not
you're
elementary school kids.
creating a game where anything can be killed, I guess that does make sense to. Obviously, I guess you could always program it so that they couldn't, but then I guess that would feel different or weird. I don't know what would feel stranger, like being able to not have this whole group of like individuals present, that part of the world, or to have them present and not be able to kill them like you can everything else.
If I had to defeat goblins in a camp to rescue somebody, and along the way I saw goblin babies, and you don't just hit them with a fireball and they die. You specifically have to go up to each baby and press and hold the E button to kill them like in a gruesome, you don't see any gruesome thing happening, but you as the player viscerally have to make that choice. Like, are you going to kill a baby? Are you going to take on the corruption for doing this? Or do you not take on corruption in the eyes of the poor people's gods of Vera is killing any goblin, and you just got to do what you got to do. I think they want to avoid that sort of stuff entirely, is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, my worst moment in World of Warcraft was when I had to, they came almost back to back, is when I had to run over goblins with a steamroller. And not only were they screaming in terror as they were running away from the vehicle, and I'd squish over them. Sometimes it was like kill like, I don't know, 200, so then I'd have to roll back over some of them and make sure I squished them. That was for this Care Bear mind of mine, very problematic. And then the other one was I think there was some kind of fire cannon I was shooting at goblins, and they were being immolated and screaming as they're running on fire, and in so much pain they were throwing themselves over a cliff to end the pain. And also, you had to kill like 200 of them. That was not fun. So, yeah, I would hope to not have to kill goblin babies in the game.
Classic Blizzak.
I might feel like I have to do it if it's the quest, but
well,
yeah,
this conversation has taken an entirely different turn. So,
yeah.
We are not raiding young, killing young ones. I just didn't realize there was no children in the game. I mean, it kind of makes sense, I guess, but I just did not realize that. But back to the raid. What do you think about the loot? I know you've had, Neuro, some reservations when we've seen some other combat scenarios where there's sort of static loot, what you're going to go get, versus an ever-changing or dropping crafting materials, dropping damaged items that can be learned from or repaired. Instead, this dropped, what was it? I think 4. Of course, this is all early, like I'm sure it'll be changed, but nonetheless, there was loot. Actually, I think that was one of the first questions Stephen, after they killed it, said, what's loot? Where's loot?
That is the thing that I had already made a couple of comments about, like, what other than a curse bestowed by the ancients as part of their eternal life did Tumok do to be forced to carry small humanoid-sized weapons? Normal, portal people, humanoid-sized weapons. Like, why would they carry that? I like the idea of him having, notes and journals and things that you can, like, decipher details out of and figure out how to make some of the weapons, potentially, and get the materials, like some of the core materials for those weapons that drop from the Cyclops. That makes sense. That's great. That way, instead of these specific items that you're trying to get that you're hoping drop or don't drop, it's here's the materials, here's some things so you can, make the items. Now, you can potentially put, you take the materials that you got from this, you take some other high quality materials, maybe you killed a dragon, got some dragon leather, put that on here. You got some legendary wood from, Mount, what's it called, that has like some fancy holy wood or whatever. All right, cool. Now you've got yourself, a super amazing version of the Cyclops quarterstaff for the wizards, the caster types. That's that's the sort of stuff that I'd be hoping to see. You're not getting 4 fixed completed items. You're getting materials and components and maybe partial guides and some magic remnant memory material that you can use to restore for like just a couple of blueprints so you can make a couple of the things. And maybe that's something you specialize in. You go to every you're basically like the guy who follows the McRib or whatever, but instead it's the Cyclops. Whenever a Cyclops spawns, you hightail or beeline it, you beetail it over there. Sorry, mix those two up there. You get to that location, you make friends with the folks that are starting to build up, say, hey y'all, I know how to make some of these things already, and I'm pretty good at crafting, so try to get a piece of that action so you can get more of the recipes and more of the materials, make more of the weapons, be able to, specialize in that sort of stuff. I think that would be a really cool sort of thing to see, is somebody who can, really make all of the Cyclops weapons, because they focus on doing all of the Cyclops raids. They might not be the greatest fighter in the game. They might not be, a super hardcore combat player, but they can do the roles enough so that they can stand up and not be a liability in combat. And then when it's over, it's like, hey, can I get a little bit of this and a little bit of that? I'll help make some of this and that for you folks. That's what I do. Like that seems cool. It's the sort of thing you can build a reputation around. So I like seeing more of that, like build the thing. And then there's the other element that you actually have to engage all of your professions in doing something like that. It isn't the kill gather portion leading immediately to completed random product. That's, you're skipping a lot of phases, you're skipping a lot of professions by doing that. You really want to make sure everyone's involved. You want to do a crafting sort of thing so that way you really do want to get the best materials and the best, quality of everything that you can along the way for the best of stuff that you can put into it. Instead of, well, here's a fixed version of the thing. Yeah, you already have one? Great. You did we put in like dual wielding? I don't know if they're going to have that. If so, like, okay, you got two Cyclops longswords and one in each hand. Great job, guy. Whatever.
Damn it, Phantom! I told you to go get Nero to gather that stuff, not try to do it yourself. I can't do anything with this crap you brought me.
No, I agree. I one of the things I always hated in doing anything dungeon related in like World of Warcraft was you knew the loot tables, so you would know. Like if Diggs asked me to go help out, okay, maybe out of 4 bosses, 3 of them aren't going to drop anything I can use. And so outside of that first challenge, your 10th time running it, it's like, oh, well, what's the real point here? If I'm max level, I'm not getting an item. Maybe the final boss has something that could potentially be an upgrade, but there's all these other ones. And if you have some other mechanism where it's items that get broken down or resources that they drop or not just weapons, the clothing they're wearing. Maybe they have a profession just like we do. Maybe one of them's a cook and drops recipes. Like there's all different kinds of ways to, I think, make it a much more interesting, fun process that everyone can benefit.
Maybe a wolf cub will cough up a sword.
Yes, and I agree. I think it should follow. In this specific instance, he should have dropped a tree. No way he couldn't. They blew it up, didn't they? So he didn't really have anything left over except his eye, I guess, and some clothes. Which then also,
when he's magic, can I get his magical ability to clobber trees down and put that in like an axe or like a codpiece or something? Aha! Now I'm the one who's running trees down with my nuts. Like what? If it's magic, I want that magic.
If you boil his eye in the axe milk, yes.
All right.
But then also you have this big ass Cyclops. Why is he carrying around a hammer and a sword and a bow that fit humans or elves? Like why does he have those in his possession? I don't know.
Part of the curse. Every time he comes back, the ancients force him to have that.
I thought in a previous video is carrying around a big ass tree branch.
No, he was. He had a tree trunk, but that's what he threw to the ground that they destroyed, so that he could stop. So he'd stop healing. I don't know. I'm just saying. We have the Lord General here sitting. I don't know. To explain it to me. I don't know. I don't get it. Is it a time issue? Is it a we don't have the ability to do that yet issue? I'm curious. I don't know.
I bet that one's not even his project. I bet he's working on something else, like, completely.
Inquiring minds want to know.
I feel like if you're trying to make a next gen MMORPG and you want it to feel alive, that is, yes, we talk about the world. There should be some consistency. You're right. You shouldn't go kill a wolf and all of a sudden you get an axe off of it. Like, you should have some expectation in general of what you're going after to get.
I think in Ashes of Creation, wolves are not supposed to cough up swords, but I recall that happening to you in Ethereal.
Yeah, multiple times. The global loot. That I also hate the idea of a global loot table. But anyways, you like being surprised. I mean, well, we couldn't surprise you with wolf puppies because we're not allowed to have kids. So
I made this game like my totally grognard DM who used to host first edition D&D, and like I would kill a wolf and we'd like roll on the loot table and I'd totally get daggers and things. Yeah, no, that it's an outdated sort of mechanic and system and thing. Like I think it is kind of silly. I like the idea of bosses having like a key or something they carry that has a chest if it's like a beast that's set there to guard something, but like I don't think players should have to or be really able to get large metal, wood, whatever material things off of naked, furry, scaly, whatever beasts and animals. If animals suddenly start carrying bags, that's a different story. Maybe there's some sort of like large humanoid-sized crows that do carry a bag or something. Like, I could see that'd be funny. That'd be fun. Steal your stuff. If you leave a body alone too long close to them, they'll go and loot it, and then you have to kill them to get the loot. Like, that sounds hilarious.
Stephen also showed off, since we're talking about sort of mobs and just in general. I think it was with the spiders, correct? He was walking through beforehand, and they were not aggroing him.
No, they're like rearing back and standing up, like, hey, if you get closer, we're gonna have to do a thing. Yeah. But
or if you stay too long,
I don't want to have to charge at you. So I do like that.
Hold on, I'm not touching you.
Yeah, well, that too. I don't know if it's something that you'll see at all levels of player level versus creature level. Like, if I'm a level 10 and it's a level 40, is it going to still do the, hey, I don't want to have to deal with you if you don't want to have to deal with me sort of thing? Or at that level differential, is it like, tasty? Yeah, you got just enough blood for a little snack. I'm coming for you.
I do like this idea. I mean, there's nothing more annoying when you're running through a forest and having literally everything come after you. It's like, you got to leash them off or you got to kill them. In this way, it just seems to avoid a lot of unnecessary frustration, and it has a reason behind it, which is the nice part. It's not that you're just tuning them down or something. There's actual rationale behind it. So, But yeah, this overall encounter, I still am curious. Everyone, was in the forums at least were very frustrated with how simplistic it seems, and I'm just super curious, like what their expectation is, because there was literally every type of mechanic that you could have, almost adds, heals, AoE damage, charges. I mean, literally stuns, like anything you can think of, like was kind of in this. And yes, it seemed a little bit simplistic, but it's a big raid group. They kind of know what they're doing. They said they didn't use any GM cheats. And then in this instance, and I think Terran had pointed this out, what their gear probably, you'd expect for a better, more difficult raid boss, the better gear, which they probably just don't have yet. And I guess skills too. If this is level 30, you don't have half the skills you'll have when you're maximum probably level. So I'm just still curious what everyone expects, but that's that. I'm happy to see this again. EverQuest, one of the things I loved about it that people just not a lot of games have repeated, was the idea that you had really open world raid content at all levels. You could go do Castle Mistmore, you could do Crushbone. Had these pretty significantly challenging open world raids that started at like level 18, level 23, far before you ever got to 50 or 60, which I think made the world feel a lot more fun. So that's where seeing these open world dungeons, I think will be a welcome sight, as long as I'm not getting ganked.
Which you will be. Well, that's the other thing, before I keep forgetting to say, and we're almost out of time, is that one thing that will make this more difficult, or at least more challenging, will be other people trying to PvP you while you're... I'm not exactly sure what their motivation other than PvP will be to thwart you, especially since we can't befriend the Cyclops, probably. But yeah, there should be other people out there trying to PvP you.
I love Steven's response to this. This was a question that was asked, what about PvP during boss fights? And of course, he went into the 80-20 thing, 80% open world, 20% instanced, and how important it is, when you have a world that's based off of competition for limited resources and scarcity, and they consider these open world bosses part of that system. They are scarce, there are resources. Of course, he always says it's healthy to encounter friction with other players. I don't know that I would use the word healthy, but it's there, risk versus reward. But I thought it was funny because he said, well, there's systems, they'll have systems in place that you establish reputation with other players. It's like, I don't think that's going to stop some of these people. The fact that they just look like assholes. I mean, some people are just assholes and they don't mind being assholes. The fact that you think reputation is going to solve all of this, I don't know.
Video game. Video game.
I don't know. We'll see. Because then he says, well, there are going to be ways to pursue them outside of the encounter. I don't know if that's going to go PK them. I guess declare wars on their guild. There's going to be ways that you can essentially retaliate afterwards. But I don't know.
It's like you're there. It's like, oh wow, there's 100 we crap on your face players doing the thing. I don't know. Let's try to get some hits in on the Cyclops with some people and try to PvP them or something. But I think they're going to crap on our face because there's 100 of them and they're coordinated.
I almost even want to at that point become guys, I'm going to sound terrible like this, but do you just make it a game then? Okay, how can I do this stealthily? I see there's a raid over here. I'm going to try to be as quiet as I can. I'm going to try to identify who their most important healer is. And I'm going to try to sneak up without anyone noticing me, kill them, and just watch this thing collapse, and then try to escape. I'm curious, how that will just be super interesting. I don't think reputation is going to be, maybe for some people. I mean, certainly, again, EverQuest, PvP servers, or even just raiding, you would share. It becomes sort of a hierarchy within the server of who you sort of listened to and followed, but. When you have just free for all PvP, essentially, I don't know. I think that's we'll see. I could be wrong, but yeah, that's a good point. Woodshed too. not even just kill them, but stun them. Like if you're a very good rogue, can you just keep them locked down and then jump back into the shadows and just disappear? It would be that becomes a game in and of itself. Like I'm not trying to kill the boss for gear and for coin. I'm actually just trying to see if I can disrupt me, a single person, a 40-man raid group, or whatever the size is. That becomes the challenge, and I think that people will seek out that challenge. They won't care about reputation. The challenge of the game at that point is to see who they can disrupt and how they can do it without being caught.
Not even a challenge. It's just their fun. All right. That's their vision of fun.
So I don't know. We'll see how it goes, but you know, a few other questions came up. We got like just a short period of time. Footprints. I said in general, NPCs will not leave footprints, but bigger bosses like this will. And in this instance, this one would. They just did not have that activated yet. Love to see that interact with environment. If it's raining, seeing puddles form as the footprints go away, puddles go away, that sort of stuff would be a lot of fun to see. Ground shake for large bosses, they want to do that, but it will be a feature that can be turned off so that people don't get nauseous and throw up. The other thing that we can maybe put a little bit of time into was there was a question of whether world bosses scale as nodes level, and the answer was no. Their system will not be scaling of bosses. If it's a level 30 boss, it will always remain a level 30 boss, regardless of your node level, regardless of your player character level.
Yeah, but that's that boss itself. It's an interesting question given the way nodes work. So yeah, there's no reason for that boss to scale because different bosses will be appearing at a different stage of the node. So, right, it's not going to be like level 30 bosses will always be there when it becomes a level 60.
We can replay content though.
Huh?
We can replay content though, right? That's what we've been told.
The node would have to be destroyed and moved back into a level 30 node area.
That's not how I took that.
It could be anywhere across the grasslands that it's, maybe it preferentially goes from tier 3 to tier 3, but it can maybe go between like a 2 and a 4 or even a 1 and a 5 if it needs to get across from a 3 to a 3. That might just be how it rolls. But it's not going to keep spawning in the same it's either wetlands or grasslands location. It's not going to keep spawning there every time. It will all across the region appear at whatever random interval or event or otherwise that will generate it. I don't know if there's perhaps certain conditions that are required. And then likewise with higher level ones and lower level ones, you need to have a node of that level for them to potentially spawn, or do you not need like a metropolis in an area to have a max level boss spawn potentially? That's some other stuff that I'm wondering about. And how do you deal with that? It's like, oh, well, we just started and there's a level 60 dragon just, rampaging around every now and then.
Well, and this also brings me back to some questions about the PvP side. Like, what if, how is that all going to handle? I know corruption goes up higher with level difference, but I don't know. It's just interesting. You don't even have to PvP, right? If you engage, because it's not a tag winner, first tag gets the boss, right? I think there's a component that is amount of damage dealt. So if you have a group of 30s and there just happens to be a group of 45s rocking by and they just want to be assholes, well, okay, we can take down this level 30 boss and take whatever he has and run with it. And they don't even have to really engage in a PvP scenario. So, I don't know, I'm curious to see how this all plays out. And we just have to get to Alpha 2 whenever that will come, hopefully sooner rather than later.
If there's
Not
enough
quite at the
30s, they
half-year
might
mark,
squash
almost.
some of those 45s before they finish it. They might all right, lay off for a second while the 45s grab aggro, and then once they get kind of melted a bit, then we'll maybe think about stepping in again.
Let's see what else was on here. Really, only one other thing. Bosses will get voice lines. Yes, they will. Some bosses will speak. That was kind of it. There was one other thing in the forums.
Wait, if we're doing all the questions, didn't you have a question answered? What was your question?
No, these were just they have the YouTube question, then they have questions after the stream, after the gameplay, and then they have actual Q&A at the end. This was just after the raid was shown.
Okay.
Not the Q&A. I mean, I can bring, yes, my second show in a row.
We'll wait until the next show.
I was proud about that. Second show in a row, getting a question answered. So I'm going to go for 3 in a row. We'll see. I'm like getting, after I made that complaint about only getting one question.
Now they're paying attention.
Well, no. Anyways.
I'm going to segue, since you mentioned questions and our questions getting answered. This was 99. I did send a message to Margaret asking for Stephen or her or Ombwa to join us sometime in June for episode 100. So maybe we should just wait and see if they'll schedule something. It might not be next week is what I'm saying. If they say, okay, we're going to pick a date in June to join us, episode 100, we should give that a shot. And maybe they'll answer a bunch of our questions.
Yeah, see,
we'll have an audience for that.
It is hard to believe that we will be on episode 100. Actually, I'm looking really quickly to see when we started. Anybody know with this one?
We had a lot of downtime, so I feel like it was a few years back.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's been a bit, but I'm just curious when we started.
29?
Gosh, I'll get to it here in a second.
I say 2016. Might have been 2017.
Oh, wait, what just happened? 2017, yeah. Number one, May 12th, 2017. So we just passed, 6 years? 6 years of this show. That's crazy. Somebody once posted in the forums, it was one of those posts of, is this game ever going to come out? And it's never going to reach Alpha 2. And I've sort of came to the defense, and somebody posted a picture, or was it, I think it was the forums. I don't remember where now, but it was of us when we first started compared to where we were now. And we all look very much older. So it's like, just look at you. This is how long you've been covering this show. You've all aged so much. Like, damn, that's rough. That's true. True and rough. For those of you that have watched us for a while, we were talking too that this is, what did you say, 9 years, almost 10?
Yeah, in September of 2013 is when EQ Next was announced, and then on forums we were, or EQ Nexus, we were hanging out. But I think by, I don't know. I don't know when Theoryforge exactly started, but I think it was right at the end of 2013. Neuro and I met in in person in February of 2014, along with Margaret, at the SOE Bash.
Well, let's see if can either of you can think about why this is the history of the show. And actually, Diggs, I think you joined us. You weren't there initially. Why it might be hard to even figure out when the show started. This is just some stupid trivia that only I would know. The answer to that is that this channel was actually not created first. So it was SOG would host a show, and then whoever else was with us, they actually hosted it themselves on their own channels. So it's actually really hard to go back and even know where we were. Actually, I just pulled up the playlist and it says it's empty. So I'm confused by that. Should be there. But yeah, 10 years. It's crazy. So 6 years of this.
Yep.
let's hope that this does not turn into another EQ Next or another Illyria. So,
well, it's amazing too that this means we've spent the longest doing Ashes of Creation.
It's true.
I mean, especially considering it was supposed to launch within 2 years. It's kind of funny that we've been following this game the longest. That's amazing.
May 12th, by the way, is the YouTube post date for episode 1 of the Ashen Forge.
Yeah. So it's been a bit. Revival cast. But yeah, I didn't think of that. Theoryforge Chronicles started first, but ended a while back. So, and for those of you who are interested, we've kind of mentioned this in Discord. We've been a little slow to get to it. We will be starting a PAX Day show as well. Everything's pretty much ready, package video wise, and so it's just been some schedules that we've been trying to get together. Hopefully, we'll start this month. Ideally, we all got to meet with Lethality as well. Will be joining us. So another amazing game. Actually, for a game that has no NPCs, it has a lot of amazing lore. So confuses me mightily. And a little bit of other news before we end, because some people have know I talk about Throne and Liberty quite a bit. Their closed beta, their beta, whatever it was, closed, open, closed, whatever it was. They had a beta over in South Korea. No, it was I don't think any NDA, because there was live streams and there are a lot of videos out. I don't think that game's coming out anytime soon. The combat looked absolutely horrible and made me very much understand why Steven is putting so much time into Ashes of Creation combat. So if you have a moment.
Wait, which one was that?
Throne and Liberty. A game that's been in development longer than Ashes of Creation. And actually, a lot of the people playing it say it's not even worth to play melee classes, because you literally have to stand still to attack. You can't move at all. So it's crazy how bad it looked. So
the date that I've got, by the way, August 31st, 2014, is the YouTube date for the first episode of Theoryforge. And that makes sense because that was just after SOE Live 2014, if I'm not mistaken, where we all pretty well met together for the most part.
Yeah.
Then
we had Into the Portal before that with...
that's what it was, Into the Portal.
With some people, so...
Yep.
A lot of little history wrapped all up in one, but... yeah.
Oh, yeah, that Naga pen hat.
I still have a bunch of those, actually. At some point when we were doing all of this, SOE sent me a lot of shirts and stuff like that to give away. And then EQ Next went away. So I just have all this stuff sitting up in the attic, old clothing and things. So. All right.
Try and grab another Nagafin hat from you. I think I lost mine.
Oh, no.
I have to go up and find them, but I'm pretty sure. I know I have shirts. Think I have the hat.
I have to hit you up for some of those. I didn't really get many.
Well, all right. We will be back next week. At least I don't think I have any issues that will pop up. So,
well, we might be back next week, depending on whether.
Oh, that's a good point.
Scheduling and stuff.
Yeah. Well, if they tell us there's no way, then we will be back next week.
Yep.
Otherwise, we'll maybe look for something different. We start PAX Day.
It might not be. We should be here next week, but it might not be Ashes of Creation is what I'm thinking. But we'll see.
Yeah, we can talk Diablo. That's fine.
Exactly.
Count me out for that one. I got nothing to say.
It's a lot of fun. All right, everyone have a great week, and we will see you back here next Sunday.
Till then, see you later, everybody.